Obviously, if you're going out to race, you have to be in a situation where you've got the best tyre on which is possible in that sort of situation, because it's very much about crossing the line first. That's all racing's about at the end of the day. Having a rough idea what a tyre does. I mean, you don't need to be a scientist, but having some understanding. If you get a hold of a rain tyre, the first thing you'll notice about it, of course, there's a massive tread pattern on the tyre. One of the biggest questions people ask me when it comes to rain tyres and the when do you make the change? Intermediate tyre, a true intermediate tyre, is still quite soft and the carcass is quite soft, but the rubber blocks now are much bigger. It's not exactly a slick, but it's getting. So compound plays a really important part in this, for instance, between a stock 1000 bike and a superbike. So let's start to run through a few scenarios of when to change and when you can get away with whatever you've got on. Now, the first time you get rain is usually what I call psychological rain. You've got the first few drops on your visor, and it's just a few sort of smattering of rain. And most people at that situation overreact and slow down far too early and kind of roll the throttle back and think that's it. It sort of squashes the raindrops out and flattens them on the top of the surface. So you've been used to going fast, you've put a lot of energy into the bike, and for me it's the worst time from a grip point of view, because the conditions. A wet tyre at that point will really come into its own. The initial braking, the transition from full throttle to brake, is the bit where you need to be careful. Very often, to be fair, a front end slide is catastrophic. It's usually game over unless your name's Marquez. The actual braking force you can put through is absolutely amazing. Again, the scenario's got to its worst case now, where it's absolutely pouring down and you're riding around and there's puddles here, there and everywhere. The wet weather tyre, they aren't miracle tyres, and if you're driving through a puddle, it always starts off right at the tightest part of the corner. I remember one particular time I was racing at Monza, and the last corner is called a parabolic. It's a really long sort of sweeping corner. But everything seems fine, and all of a sudden you get like the steering seems to go a little bit loose in your hands. And that's if you're riding in a series, racing series, for instance, which has a controlled tyre. That doesn't mean stopping and having a tab at the side of the track. It's when you're physically riding around on the bike, is not gripping it like it's trying to kill you. If I'm going out on wets, I'll put the tyre in a tyre warmer, and mine aren't temperature controlled, I can't vary it. So it's always a bit of a gamble at the end of the day. People always feel more confident about leaving the wet on the front to give them control. And as the grip starts to fall away, and it happens very, very quickly, you'll tend to get a little bit of oversteer the handlebar. So one of my little favourite tools I've got is a little laser temperature gauge, which you can measure the temperature of the tarmac itself. The whir rate will be pretty okay, but the actual grip starts to run away from you, because any feedback which is coming up through the bars, through the forks and suspension, now all you can do at that point, apart from jump off it and scream, is to get the wheels to grip, and all of a sudden you'll see the bike, when it does survive, you'll see the bike grip, and up he goes. Confidence it inspires, because it kind of takes over for you. To be honest, it's just amazing, really. Throttle development is key to this. Now, if you're riding a bike like, say, a TZ, which has got a very sharp, narrow power band, where the bike comes on song quite quickly. Now, if you're being progressive with the throttle, you can almost play with it at that point. But safe as houses, but dull. So I asked Ron Haslam, I said, how do you know how much grip you've got left? And I always remember him, it was a classic. He said, a lot of people tend to be gripping so tight onto the bars, the front wheel or the suspension could write you a letter and you wouldn't read it. You're not feeling for it. But you've got to get that feel. It's a very difficult subject to talk about, but it's part of the wet weather thing, I'm afraid. Join me on Patreon, and then you can get to see all of my online content as soon as it's published, plus lots of other private content made exclusively for my patrons.